So, Alan, let me pick it up where we just left off with Arthur Aidala and Mark Eiglarsh, where Arthur said, would you please ask Professor Dershowitz how it is that Trump could get this case, if he needs to the U.S. Supreme Court and past what will be a heavily weighted Democrat bench at both levels, immediate appellate and Court of Appeals in New York?
He should make an appeal to the New York Court of Appeals, asking them to bypass the appellate division, because he's not going to get justice in the appellate division. The appellate division are Manhattan judges that are elected, and they don't want to have to face their families and say, we're the judge who allowed Trump to become the next president of the United States. They don't want to be Dershowitz. They don't want to be treated in New York the way I have been treated in Martha's Vineyard and Harvard and New York, because I defended Donald Trump. So they should skip the appellate division, go to the New York Court of Appeals, ask for an expedited appeal. In the meantime, prepare for an expedited appeal in the United States Supreme Court and say that this was a rush to try to get this case a verdict, a conviction before election, and the Supreme Court of the United States has an obligation to review this case before the election so that the American public knows whether or not Donald Trump is guilty or not guilty of these made-up crimes. You know, this is worse than Stalin and Lavrentiy Beria. Lavrentiy Beria said to Stalin, "Show me the man and I'll find you the crime." Bragg tried to find the crime, but he couldn't because his predecessor couldn't find the crime. The U.S. attorney couldn't find the crime. The FEC couldn't find the crime. So he did worse than what happened in the Soviet Union. He made up a crime that didn't exist, and he charged a political opponent with it. This will create a terrible precedent for how local DAs will become involved in trying to influence not only local elections, but national elections as well.
Oh, let me ask you a follow-up. Our audience probably knows that you're a famous criminal defense attorney and Harvard law professor, but really you're one of the most famous appellate lawyers in the country. And that's where we are now. So if you had to consult with Team Trump on grounds for appeal, not the everything but the kitchen sink approach, which I know you take, but like your top three favorites in this case, what comes to mind?
Number one is Stormy Daniels. The New York Court of Appeals recently held that the Harvey Weinstein, certainly not a popular defendant, his conviction had to be reversed because the court allowed the introduction of too many salacious other accusations that really had nothing to do with the trial, and also threatened to put in other material if he took the witness stand. So the first thing I would do is try to piggyback on the New York Court of Appeals reversal of the Weinstein case and talk about how he improperly admitted Stormy Daniels, particularly the details, the positions they took during sex, the kind of aftershave he used, the pajamas that he wore, and
the lack of birth control.
Yeah, even more, right, even more if he took the witness stand. That would be number one. Number two, I think, would be the failure to give an instruction on the missing witness. The way the judge and the prosecution handled Alan Weisselberg really denied the defendant the right to a presumption that the only reason he wasn't called was because he would not have corroborated the very important testimony, lying testimony, of Michael Cohen. So those would be the two things. I would also focus on change of venue and the fact that the crime was manufactured. There are so many issues that are good. Even a minor technical issue, the judge closed the courtroom to the public. I was there. I was a witness. He didn't throw me out, but he threw out the media. And, you know, the Sixth Amendment doesn't say partially public trial. It says a completely public trial. So I would emphasize that as well, although it would be hard to show prejudice from that. But there are some, this is a winnable appeal. This is an appeal that a first-year law student could win if the defendant's name wasn't Donald Trump and it wasn't New York.
You know, Megyn,
I completely agree with that. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Jump in for 1 second, because I don't know if Alan will remember, but Alan and I and Harvey actually got on a call, and I won't talk about the substance of the call, but it was the Saturday, the Saturday before he got remanded. And I will tell you that when you compliment Alan as being, he's far and away the appellate lawyer for the ages, but he correctly predicted what would eventually happen in that case before Harvey went into custody. He went into custody in 36 hours later, but he correctly predicted. Alan's point about the Weinstein reversal, I would go one step farther, because that opinion also said that and excoriated the then trial judge, who's no longer on the bench in New York. He excoriated him for telling Harvey that if you take the stand, this Molyneux evidence is going to come in, meaning the other act's evidence, basically freezing the defendant from taking the stand. This judge, in this case, did the exact same thing. It's almost like he read the opinion and said, I'm going to commit the exact same error in this case with Donald Trump that just got reversed in Harvey Weinstein. It's mine.
And the reason he did it is because he knows the defendant in this case name is Donald Trump. And courts don't reverse convictions of Donald Trump. There's a special law for Donald Trump, which is why I named my book Get Trump. It wasn't my title. That's the title that was devised by Bragg. He ran on that principle. They know, prosecutors and judges know, the law doesn't apply to Donald Trump because the goal is to make sure he doesn't become the next president of the United States.
So here's a little bit of Alvin Bragg, by the way, because now we're all looking forward, not like happily looking, we're looking to the date of July 11th, where sentencing will happen. And prior to then, both parties are going to submit a recommendation on what they think Donald Trump should get. Obviously, the defense is going to want no jail time, and I don't know whether they're going to want any punishment at all. They'll probably say what he's been through already is punishment enough. And the DA, will he recommend jail time? Will this DA, who ran on a promise to get Trump, will he say this man should be put in jail? He was asked about whether he would object to a stay of enforcement if Trump gets a jail sentence at a press conference he held, I think, last night. So in other words, he was asked, okay, if he gets a jail sentence, would you object to staying the jail sentence, while he appeals this and runs for president? And here's as much as Bragg would say in SOT 13.
If a jail sentence is in the cards, it is likely that Trump and his attorneys would seek a stay on enforcement of that sentence pending appeal. If that were the scenario, would your office object to staying the sentence?
I'm going to let our words in court speak for themselves when we get to the sentencing matter. I'm not going to address hypotheticals. They raise arguments, we'll respond. And I think your question really underscores an important point. This is an active, ongoing matter, right? We have other phases of this going ahead. We will continue to do our speaking about this matter, about issues like that.
That's what he said when asked if he would seek jail time, too. Go ahead, Alan.
Let me tell you what I think he's going to ask for. He's going to ask for a jail sentence, a prison sentence of 2 years, but suspended.
Oh.
The fact that he'll impose a 2-year sentence will create a symbol and a message that this is somebody who deserves jail time, but he's going to say he has no prior convictions, so we wouldn't object to a suspended sentence. But I don't think he's going to...
Explain what that means. Explain what that looks like.
A suspended sentence simply means that he was sentenced to prison, but the judge suspended the sentence and said, I'm going to allow him not to be convicted, but there would be something hanging over his head. It would be like a probationary
not to be
sentence.
Incarcerated.
Not be incarcerated, but it would send the message that this is a guy who deserves to be imprisoned for this. I don't think he's going to just say, just let him go loose with a fine. He's going to do something more than that. Now, the appellate courts, even the appellate division, will stay the sentence. He's not a flight risk. He's not running away anywhere. He's not a danger unless you think his election is a danger. That's not the kind of danger that I think the statute has in mind. So it would be say he's not going to prison pending the election. That I guarantee you.
It's interesting, Alan, because I hadn't thought of a suspended sentence. I had thought maybe 30, 60, or 90, and then stay it pending the appeal. The suspended sentence is interesting because then if he doesn't win the election and he gets convicted in one of the other jurisdictions, would that trigger, I know there's arguments against it, but would that trigger the imposition of the sentence? And so that's almost diabolical in the way that it's executed.
As we draw near another critical election, it's not just about casting your vote. It's about elevating your voice. I want to tell you about the Association of Mature American Citizens, or AMAC. It's more than just a senior discount organization. They unite like-minded patriots committed to preserving our cherished values and actively opposing the leftist agenda. As AMAC's membership grows, Washington listens. Every new member strengthens this movement. If you love America, check out amac.us/Megyn and consider becoming a 4-year member for just $30. AMAC membership gives you access to the AMAC magazine, free Social Security and Medicare guidance, money-saving discounts, trusted news, sweepstakes, and more. Take advantage of their election year sale, 4 years for just $30. By joining the over 2 million members, get your voice heard. Join now at amac.us/Megyn. That's amac.us/MEGYN. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.